In this podcast, I talk with Zach Blenkinsopp, a Navy veteran from Nashville, Tennessee. He's an entrepreneur, the creator of the craziest roofing ad campaign, and his Twitter bio says it all. A general contractor and a guy who goes viral once every 2 years. Had a great time with this truly patriotic man, and I really hope that you'll enjoy this one. You can find this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and if you want to see my pretty face, then on YouTube as well. Also, consider going to patreon.com/KetoKubas and supporting my work. KetoKubas. Thank you for being awesome and allowing me to have the best job in the world. Peace. So first of all, thank you so much for agreeing to come on here. I need to apologize to the previous guests because I've never been this excited for a podcast. So yeah, thanks. And yeah, you've done a lot of cool shit. I can't wait to talk about it, see how your brain works, stuff like that. So firstly, thank you for your service. You're the first veteran that I'm gonna properly talk to.
Okay.
So yeah, why not just start there? So what made you want to choose this path, and when did you decide you want to serve for your country?
Well, first off, I want to tell you I am fired up about being on a podcast in Lithuania. we got a lot of friends who travel, and one of my buddies in particular actually spent a lot of time in Lithuania. He was in NFL Europe for a little while, and always has great things. I literally. Last time he went, I was just like checking out his pictures and stuff. So I can't wait to do start doing my trips to Eastern Europe. But yeah, so I mean, I grow up in the U.S. I think there's particularly where I live at, where I'm from in the U.S. There's a sense of doing your part and serving your country. Because we have all volunteer service in the U.S. So it's not anything that you have to do. And I think this probably falls in line with a lot of European countries as well, is that not all of us who actually served in the military choose it as a path of least resistance because we got in trouble with something, or we couldn't get a college education or anything like that. A lot of us just join because we want to serve our country. We want to kind of do our part. And so that was, for me, that was a big thing. So although when I was in high school, I never thought I was going to join the military. And then I was in my freshman year of college. I was working 60 hours a week, going to school full time. It was hard. And I started looking at some other avenues for my career. And at the time, the Army commercials, I don't know if you've ever seen the U.S. Army commercials. It was, I think it was "Be All You Can Be" was the slogan back then. And but a lot of their marketing and a lot of their advertising and their commercials were also pushing that you get an education while you're in the military. So I thought that might be a great way for me to make some money, for me to travel and get an education and serve my country all at the same time. So that was a big push for me. That's, at the end of the day, is why I decided to join it. And at the time, we were at war in both Iraq and Afghanistan. So it wasn't necessarily the most popular thing to do at the time, just because of the danger involved. But I'm glad I served during wartime.
So when was it that you joined the military?
So I joined in July of 2004.
Got it. Yeah, it sounds like it made sense for you, but you served in the Navy. Why is that? Why this specific branch?
Well, in the U.S. we have Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps. That's our four, and then I guess you can count the Coast Guard, and I guess we're coming up with the Space Force. I don't know, but yeah. But what's funny is I actually walked into my cousin had signed up with the Marine Corps. I had a lot of my friends from high school go and join the Marine Corps, and I originally had walked into the Marine Corps recruiting office, and the recruiter was. Because I was in college. I was like 19 at the time. I felt like I had a lot to offer. I was an athlete in school, and I felt like I was a pretty smart guy. So I felt like I was a good candidate for the military. And the recruiter that was there was just a total douchebag. I don't know if that translation works, but he was just he was a jerk. The guy that was. But it turns out that he was not even the main recruiter. He was just there helping for a little bit. But he totally turned me off in the Marine Corps, the recruiter. And it's just like if somebody that's trying to sell you something, they're trying to sell you a career path. And I didn't like him too much. He was, like I say, he was kind of a jerk. And the Navy office just happened to be right next door. And I went and talked to the recruiter there, and he was a lot more senior rank. He was a senior chief versus in the U.S. military we had E1 to E9 for enlisted ranks, and the Navy guy was at E8, the other guy was at E5, so he had a lot more years in service, and he was just cool. He was laid back, and he sold me on the Navy, and I felt like the Navy had a lot of opportunities for me overall. But I was going to join the Marine Corps. That's what I was going to join if it would have been for having a jerk recruiter.
Do you have any regrets for not choosing a different path? Or?
No, because I actually ended up going to Afghanistan to do a boots on ground tour back in 2010. So I still got to do. I got to do a lot of things in my career that a lot of people don't get a chance to do. I started off my career on submarines, so I got to travel a lot doing that as well. And then you get to go on submarines, which is in itself is something that most human beings will never do, and live underneath the ocean. So it's a unique experience. And like I said, I still got to volunteer and go serve in Afghanistan on a boots on ground tour where I was toting a rifle and going outside the wire and stuff like that. So I still got a chance to do that part of the job. So I was pretty happy about that.
Yeah, you've done so much in, quite a short time period. That is cool. How long did you stay in Afghanistan?
So I was there for 13 months total.
And I assume you got to see combat in Afghanistan?
Yeah, I got to see a little bit. I started off my first 6 months doing convoy operations. So we were going out. Basically, what we really were at the end of the day was a glorified taxi service. So if you were a high-ranking official and you needed to go to another base for training or for whatever reason, we would take around these like VIP type of people around the city in these upper armored SUVs, and it's almost like we were, kind of like Secret Service in a way, because we had these, blacked out, Suburbans that were of course they had armor on them and stuff like that. So there were these up armored Suburbans that we were taking out in Toyota Highlanders, and so it was a pretty cool job to do for 6 months, and then we were short for counterinsurgency instructors, so I left Kabul, which was the capital, went down to Helmand Province and taught counterinsurgency. And I actually taught a class to a group of Lithuanians.
Oh, really?
Yes. So what a lot of people don't know is that Afghanistan had like 31 or 32 other NATO countries outside of the U.S. in Afghanistan. And I remember I was approached about teaching them, because I'd been out a lot, been outside the wire a lot, and they were wanting just a few classes on certain operations, and then I was kind of I almost call myself an expert, but I was very knowledgeable and wrote a few classes about Afghan history, kind of how the Taliban, got into Afghanistan, and I thought it was very, they were very interested in that. So anyway, I go and I agree to do the class, and it was like probably a 4-hour block I spent with those guys, and I remember walking in to teach the class. And the average height, because I'm like 5'10", so in meters I'm like 1.8. So I'm like average height in the U.S. And I remember walking into the classroom, and like every dude was like 6'2" plus, like just big, like what I think about is like big, like traditional, like Eastern Europe strongmen, just like these big, massive guys. And I'm like, holy shit, like some of you guys need to be in the NFL. There's these huge people. And I remember being a little intimidated because I wasn't accustomed to going somewhere and being like a little guy. Because I work out a lot and stuff, I was like close to, I was like probably, 90 kilos, 1.8 meters. And I spent a lot of time in Latin America and stuff. And I'm a big guy there. And it was kind of intimidating to walk in and see how many like large Lithuanian men were in there. I was like, okay. So
Yeah,
yes,
we
that was
have that going for us. I mean, personally, I'm like 6 feet tall, and I've just
yeah.
spent a couple of years in the UK, and I've noticed everybody, well, like way smaller than me,
Mm-hmm.
but right now I'm in Lithuania, and I'm noticing that I'm like below average height. Like other guys are way taller. I was used to being always the shortest guy here,
Yeah, yeah.
and then I go to another country and like everybody's looking up to me. Like that's so gnarly feeling.
You
But
need to
yeah,
go to you need to visit like Latin America. You need to go down to Mexico and South, and you'll the same way in like in Southeast Asia, you'll just tower over everyone. Because I think the average. I was actually reading an article about this last night. The average height in the UK right now for men is 5'9", so it's just an inch smaller than what our average height is in the US.
yeah, that's cool. That quite a bit of crossover with Lithuanian culture.
Yeah.
When are you planning to come over here?
Well, I want to. So I travel a lot in my. So I've kind of built my company where I can travel more than to be in the U.S. And so I want to do all of my goal is to do. I want to do every country in the world. So I want to do all of the Americas first, just because it's a hell of a lot cheaper to get to country than it is to get to continent to continent. Of course, once you're somewhere, you can travel for fairly inexpensively. You know that. And but the thing about it, what's great about Europe is, and I haven't spent a lot of time in Europe, is you guys have train systems and stuff that you can travel very inexpensively. It's quick. Like here, we have to fly everywhere, and the countries are large, and there's typically no rail system, so you're having to fly. Or, I mean, you can drive, but I mean, I think statistically, it's like 8 out of the top 10 most dangerous countries in the world are between here and Colombia. So,
Really?
oh yeah. I mean, if you look at some of the most violent countries in the world, you got El Salvador, which I think has the highest murder rate in the entire world. Then you have countries like Colombia, Venezuela, even Panama and Costa Rica. While they're like great to visit, like they're still dangerous. Like they're still real dangerous countries.
Yeah, that's
And
why. Yeah, I'm surprised why more Americans don't want to come over here because it is way cheaper here. It is really nice. We got beautiful forests and yeah, just yeah, the travel's really easy in between cities and European cities and in Lithuania especially. Yeah, it's a beautiful country. So I really do hope you come over here.
I will be. What's the city that you're in Lithuania?
I just moved over to another city. It's called Klaipėda.
Uh-huh.
It's by the coastline because whenever I choose where to go, I just for some reason I'm used to living by the sea. So
That's
yeah,
good.
yeah. But the capital is Vilnius, and that's
Yeah.
the main city, and yeah, all the action just happens there.
So how many people live in the city that you're in right now?
That's a good question. I'd assume it's like slightly more than 100,000.
Okay.
So yeah, it's one of the biggest cities, but yeah, like in American standards, it's like tiny.
Well, like I'm from a small town. Like where I'm at right now, this was my grandparents' old house I renovated, and my town's at 50,000 people. So I'm from a smaller town as well. But no, I mean, and you think we have big cities in the U.S., but then you go to places like when you get down to Latin America. I mean, Mexico City is 25 million people. I know Rio is well over 10. My girlfriend's from Guayaquil, Ecuador. Is 5 million there. So they've got some massive cities in Latin America as well. And it's just life's just different. In a smaller town.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, there are pluses and minuses. There's like the nightlife is definitely not as good as in a bigger city,
Sure.
but you get to know the people here way more. Like most people that you meet, you're gonna see them the other week or maybe at some point. It's just that's inevitable, and yeah, that is quite nice, I suppose. Yeah,
So so let me ask you this: what's the cost of living in the town that you're in? Like, what do you need to make where you're living at to live a pretty decent life as a single guy?
I mean, it's way cheaper than like in America. I don't know the average cost. I mean, I'm paying very little for my place here. It is quite small, but it is in the middle of the city, so it's like in the old town, and it's
Yeah.
like yeah, I'm paying like 200 euros per month for the place.
200 euros per month.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, isn't it?
That's been crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I keep telling people, like from the UK and stuff. Like, why don't you come over here? Like, like everything's so different. And yeah, yeah, if you want a big apartment, you'd pay more. But yeah, it is really beautiful, and for such a low cost, yeah, it's an awesome place to visit.
And it's a lot safer than a lot of places in Latin America as well.
Oh, it's super safe.
Yeah.
Like our crime rates are, I don't know the exact numbers, but they're
It's
I
really
think
low.
very low. Yeah. And I mean, another upside, I'm not sure how the air travel is right now, but the restrictions in Lithuania are really, because of the whole pandemic and stuff, are really low. So yeah, if you do find your way over here, like you can basically travel anywhere and do whatever you want. So
That's awesome.
yeah. So yeah, I'd like to talk about your ad because that is special. And yeah, I told some people I'm gonna have you on my podcast. That's what I showed. I showed them the ads. So yeah, I saw you being interviewed on PS Morgan. And why
Yeah.
don't you tell the listeners about the ad? How did it come about? And yeah, how drunk were you when it came up with the idea?
Well, so I don't know if you've ever heard of the book called The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss.
Oh yeah, yeah,
But,
I've heard it.
okay,
I haven't
so
read it.
I'm a Tim Ferriss guy. I had a corporate job for my last full time job after the military, and I quit it to pursue a more of a 4 hour work week type of lifestyle. And I wanted to travel and all that stuff. So I have a business partner named Chris McGuire, and him and I had a digital marketing background, and he has a couple online businesses. And anyway, for what we both knew about online marketing and stuff like that, we felt we were going to be a good fit to start our company because we never really set out to be a construction company. What we set out to do is, generate leads for roofing contractors and try to make money through online marketing through roofing because it's very lucrative here in the U.S. And a lot of, and I'm sure it's the same way, in all across Europe. Smart kids are not getting into the trades anymore. Like you don't have, Billy that's, he may not be a straight A student, but he could be a really good student. And no one's talking about him wanting to grow up to be a roofing contractor or, being an electrician. Like it's just not sexy today in 2020. And so there's less and less really smart people getting into the trades, and we felt we could be a good fit for that. And so part of the way we wanted to, because we ended up deciding just to be a construction company, and so one of the ways we were going to do that was we still wanted to use our knowledge to dominate the local marketing in our area. And so, have you ever heard of the book "I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell"?
I've heard the name, but I don't know anything about it. No.
They ended up making a movie about it. I mean, the movie was horrible, but the book is basically a collection of this guy named Tucker Bax. He was a lawyer. He was a lawyer at a junior firm when he wrote the book. But regardless about the book, it was no one wanted to publish it when he first wrote it, and he finally found someone to publish it. Once the guy that published it was just like, "Hey, I'll publish the book, but I'm not going to do any marketing towards this. Like, it's up to you." Well, he didn't have a lot of money because he was a junior lawyer making probably $0 a year, and so he used what's called guerrilla marketing techniques, which is fairly common now. But he was kind of the first person to really use guerrilla marketing. And what they did is they made, his book was controversial as it was. And what they would do is he would have his buddies call like all these big churches and tell them like how awful the book was. And then they would call, bookstores and tell them how great it was. And anyway, they were just basically starting controversy based on this book because, they had so many people that were using the extremes. And so a lot of, news stations started picking it up. These big, massive, like mega churches were talking about it and telling.
Wait, what was the book about?
What's that?
What was the book about?
So it's basically just a memoir of his days when he was in college and in law school, of him and his buddies just going out and like, banging girls and getting drunk and getting in fights and just all kinds of stuff. I mean, it was basically like a book of debauchery, but I mean, it was great for like, young single guys to read and stuff like that. And because the stuff in the book was so honest about like what really happened, there wasn't like, I mean, it was all this stuff is, I mean, it's a pretty, I mean, it's a hilarious book, but I mean, it's pretty, like I said, it's a book about debauchery with a bunch of guys in college and stuff like that. Well, we do have, especially where I'm from, is very, very conservative here. So, but anyway, it went mega viral. And this is before, really the internet took off. But he was on these massive, news stations and stuff like that. And it was basically, if you just create controversy, first off, I hate the media. I cannot stand the media. I hate, especially for the U.S. It's awful.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing everywhere. Like, I don't know anyone now who likes the media anywhere in the world. Like, maybe in China, I don't know. But other than that, yeah, exactly. So,
but it's just, and so that was kind of the idea. Was we didn't have much of a budget. We wanted to start our company without taking loans out or anything. So Chris is the one who originally came up with the idea of us doing like a viral ad. And so we kind of came out with a few ideas. Like we use drones a lot to inspect roofing projects and stuff. And so he had an idea, maybe us like staging like two people having sex. Them not really having sex, but just make it look like they were having sex. And us catch it on our drone footage and send it to all the local news stations. Because not only do you get instant business when that happens, but you also get what we really wanted was the social media backlinks. And the backlinks for you, for them writing stories on their posts and stuff, because that's all that stuff is SEO. That's just great for your SEO for your business to rank high on Google. So anyway, it was the summer 3 years ago, and it was actually July 4th, our Independence Day, 3 years ago. A couple days before that, I said, man, I saw this guy in Colorado do this ad called "Get a Roof, Get a Gun." And he's like, what? And I said, yeah. I was like, he was, so basically what I'm saying is I stole the idea from someone else. I saw this guy, he was kind of, he just wasn't someone that was going to market himself very well, but he did this ad called "Get a Roof, Get a Gun." And it got some very local media exposure, which was all we were wanting. We were just wanting local media exposure. And, Chris is like, well, that's got to be illegal. And I was like, well, I looked it up, and it turns out he's not giving away. He's not like handing people a firearm. He's doing a gun voucher. Like they still got to sign up and like pass their background check and just get their rifle and stuff. But it's legit. Like it's like a thing.
Yeah.
So I told him, I said, I feel like we could do that, but do it better and do it with video. And so that's how the idea came about. And then we knew July 4th was coming up pretty soon. I'm a veteran. So everything kind of came together at the right time, and it was his idea. So I originally, when I shot the video, I was like, we were getting ready to shoot. It was so hot outside. I don't know if you've been to the southern part of the United States during the summer, but it's miserable hot.
No,
it's like 34, 35 degrees Celsius with like 80% humidity. I mean, it's like you're in the jungle. It's just hot and humid, and I'm just pouring sweat. Like we're getting ready to shoot, and I don't have my shirt on yet. And he was like, but I got the little shorts on and the boots and the cowboy hat. And he's like, hey, I think you should shoot the video without the shirt. And I was like, fuck no, I'm not shooting this without a shirt, because I mean, I was in shape, but I hadn't really been working out like I had been. And I was like, I'm not shooting this without a shirt. And he's like, I'm telling you, shoot it without the shirt. So But yeah, then we shot it and we launched it. And within probably on July 4th, we launched it that morning. And within like an hour, we had like 100,000 views on Facebook already. And I started getting calls from all these local, well, I won't say local, they were, like regional and statewide news outlets and stuff. And that's when I knew like it was about to go mega viral.
Yeah, at the time of shooting though, did you think it was gonna get that viral?
Well, what's funny is, like I shot the video, we shot it on an iPhone, and I used a $10 app to do all the editing, and all the sound effects and stuff I was literally at my parents' house, and while I was editing the video, and they helped me put in the sound effects and stuff. So I mean, it was literally done about as and if you notice when we shot it vertical instead of horizontal like we should have. So I mean, it was just like, it was literally an iPhone. Like I wasn't even, where I wasn't mic'd up or anything like that, or we didn't have any external mics. It was literally my partner Chris holding an iPhone and us shooting this video. And that was our second take. Like we didn't go through a lot of takes. I was, I'm someone that I'm better when I can wing it. And, so we knew it was going to be really good. We knew it was going to do really well in our local community and stuff. But we never had any expectations that it was going to do what it ended up doing.
Yeah, I think all of these things added up just because of your enthusiasm and all of these little aspects, because it wasn't so professional, just had a really good idea. And yeah, everything added up. You got interviewed by Piers Morgan. How was that? How was he?
Well, I got the call to, I was climbing up on a roof, and so I was wearing those, over the phone headphone, or over the ear headphones. So, because I was climbing up to inspect roofs, and but I would take phone calls on my headset, and so I answered the phone, and it was, some girls like, "Hi, this is blah 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 from IJTV," and so anyway, she's telling me about someone wants to interview me, and I couldn't understand what she was saying because I was, up on a roof somewhere, and we got all these media requests, and so I was like, well, if you don't mind, it's like I'm working today. Can you just send an email and I'll look over it when I get back? But I heard something about Good Morning Britain and something, but that's all I really remember hearing. And then my partner called me right afterwards, and he was like, "Yeah, have we got any media requests today?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I got a call from somebody in the UK." And I was like, it was a London phone number, and they were wanting me something about Good Morning Britain, or I was like, there's no way, because I knew that if they said Good Morning Britain, it had to be like Good Morning America that we have in the U.S., which is a massive program. And he was like, "Who did they say they were going to interview you?" And I said, "Man, it sounded like, I think Morgan was in the name." And he stopped talking, and he was like, "Oh my God." He's like, "I think she's talking about Piers Morgan." And the first time he said his name, it didn't catch. And then he's like, "Zach, Piers Morgan." And then I was like, "Oh my God, Piers Morgan." And I was like, "Well, that's a big deal." So anyway, I went back and watched some of the videos that he had did with like Alex Jones and Ben Shapiro and some of these, more Second Amendment supporters and gun right people. And I realized really quickly he does not support the Second Amendment in the U.S. and us having firearms, particularly AR-15s. That's like his all-time, I don't say all-time, but I know that is a subject he hates. He hates AR-15s and all that stuff. So when I called to accept the interview, I knew that I had to have my shit together because he was about to come after me.
Yeah, was it your idea to hold the firearm at the beginning of the video, or did he ask you to do that?
So I was a little drunk during the interview. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, because it's I don't know if you've done one of these before, but it's pretty nerve-wracking because all you have is you have the earpiece in, and then you're just talking to a camera, so you can't see them at all.
Really?
No, because there's a delay because you're live. I mean, these are live broadcasts, so there's a delay Because basically they shoot, and then of course there's a delay from wherever you're shooting from to their studio, and then also they have a small delay because of it's a place I say fuck on their they can edit that out. So there's a slight delay, so they don't allow you to see them. So it's almost like you're taking a phone call with just an earpiece in, and then when you like on that for that interview, I had two people talking at once, and so it's and then plus like you can act like it's a phone call, but you know that literally millions of people are listening to every single word that you're saying, and you're getting broadcast, your face is getting broadcast up on the screen. So anyway, we got there, and I want to say it was the news station that requested that we bring the AR. I want to say they requested it.
Some reason I also didn't think it was your idea, but that they wanted to add to the experience and ask you to do that.
Yeah, like I said, I brought a bottle of whiskey with me, so I was a little lit by the time the interview started.
I mean, I don't know about the whiskey, but do you regret having the firearm at the beginning, or nah?
I don't regret anything on the video. The funny thing is, my company, we mainly do work for the U.S. government now, so we mainly do federal government contracting, and the projects they're bigger and they're a bigger dollar amount. And I always hope that no one sees it prior to giving us the contract, because some of these are fairly substantial contracts, and like for me, if I'm about to hand someone over a lot of money to do something for me, I don't want like the cool, flashy, funny guy. I want the boring, contractor that just does his job. That's what I want. Yeah. So for all the good it's done for our company and stuff like that, don't get me wrong, it's been a blessing. There are, obviously some negative sides to it as well. And then plus you get typecasted, as being a certain type of person. When most people actually meet me, I feel like I'm a fairly, intelligent guy and have an education and stuff like that. So I think a lot of people when they meet me and they don't know me personally, they expect that I'm going to be this like wild, crazy, like cowboy redneck, which, I'm still from Alabama and I still like to go out and shoot guns and hunt and stuff like that. But this doesn't necessarily fit my overall persona.
No, you sounded very intelligent in that interview. I think that's what kind of surprised Pierce, because he saw you with the gun and he thought it'll be an easy win. And then when you started talking, like, no. Yeah, man, I think that contrast was actually quite clever.
Well, dude, I'll be honest with you. I watched a lot of a lot of the videos with him, with Ben Shapiro and Alex Jones and some of these other guys. So I knew what to expect. But I knew that that's what he had me on for. Is he was expecting this just big dumb redneck for him to roast about AR-15. So I tried to be as prepared as possible for him. You know what sucks though is I'm sure you watched the YouTube video and not the live recording. The YouTube video leaves out a good portion of the interview, like 4 minutes of the interview, and I stuck his ass a few times, and then didn't put it on the YouTube video, and so I was a little frustrated about that, just because like I can't remember how he phrased it, because I don't have a copy of the original interview, but he was talking about something about UK like troops in the UK and stuff, and I was like, I lived with when I was in Helmand Province. I lived with the British military, and for 6 months, every single British soldier, sailor, airman, Marine that came into Afghanistan had to go through my training course. So, like, I knew a lot of British people, and I was on a British documentary back 10 years ago called Young Soldiers. So, like, I'm very, and plus my family heritage is English. So it was just funny that, anyway, I got his ass really good on the interview, and then again, they didn't put it on there. So I was a little, it was on the live broadcast. It just wasn't on the YouTube video that we released afterwards.
I mean, it makes sense for them to cut it out. He got roasted by so many people like Ben Shapiro on this issue. So like, it makes sense for them to try to, leave the parts where he looks the most reasonable, I suppose. But yeah, sure. I mean, he's an interesting guy because on some issues, I think he's spot on. like he's on some issues he relies on like facts, statistics, and stuff like that. But in this one, it seems more of a like gut feeling, like not like an emotional response, not really like looking at the facts. That's a bit of disappointing, I suppose.
Yeah, and I like Piers as well. I mean, I think I've watched. He was in an interview recently that I watched him on. I can't remember who's with. It was him being the one. It was him being interviewed, and I thought he was exceptionally well thought. Like all of his responses were very well thought out. You could tell it was like a very dressed down, honest interview with who Piers Morgan really is. So it's not like I dislike him. Hell, I'd love to meet the guy someday, but you know. But you know, at the same time, if you're in TV and you're in the news business, part of your job is entertainment. You know, that's unfortunately the world we live in today.
Yeah, and I feel like if you don't live in the US, like the gun issue like elicits a really emotional response. And so
Yeah.
that's what he was going for, I think. And yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you stuck it out, and yeah, you did well, I think.
Thanks.
But yeah, so yeah, let's maybe go back to your military experience, because that like the ad, but also your whole life journey really fascinates me.
Sure.
So yeah, you didn't spend too much time, but you did spend quite a bit of time in Afghanistan. You did get to see combat. Like, what impact do you think it had on your psyche? Like, what impact do you think it had on your mental health?
I think perspective. You know, which I have now I have the more of the freedom to travel. But I was 25 the first time I went to Afghanistan. It was the first time I'd been really outside of the United States, and particularly into when we first. I know when we first invaded Afghanistan. Afghanistan was the third poorest country in the world. And so for me, I'll never forget. You know, we flew into it's funny, the acronym is KIA, which we normally use for Killed in Action, but it stood for Kabul International Airport. So we flew. I thought it was their airport. I thought it was like their airport. We had just taken over, but it turned we built that entire landing strip in the airport. And it was a base that we built. And that base had a lot of Europeans on it, like, which is cool because you could see you go to like a lot of the European would have their little stores and stuff like that, like the European military, and so I could go buy like really cool stuff from all over the world, that was happened to be there. And so we first flew into there, and we'd spent like almost a week in Kuwait before we deployed to Afghanistan. It was kind of our staging area before we came, because it's a long flight for us, because literally on the other side of the world. And I'll never forget, we got on our convoy, and again, we're getting picked up in like these up armored SUVs, which was just different than what I thought it was going to be like. I thought we were going to be picked up in these big, vehicles, like we call it MRAPs. And next thing, the guys show up, it's like these Suburbans for us to take us back to our base, because that's the job we were going to be doing. And the gates opened up the first time, and then you're out in wild country. So Kabul was where I first went to, which was of course the capital. I think the capital of Kabul at the time had like 4 million people, and you're on these kind of paved streets, but they're dirt streets too, and like you see real poverty for the first time, and not only just real poverty, but you saw a country that's been basically in constant war for 30 plus years. And it was, I'll never forget, when the gates open, we go out. And I remember asking one of the guys, we were riding with, they'd been there for about a year. And I said, what's the overall consensus for the Afghans? Did they like us? Did they not like us? And as we did that, there was a group of kids, and they knew that like the vehicles were our vehicles, obviously, because like Afghans were sitting driving around, Suburbans. And there's a group of kids, and like 2 kids were waving. There's like 7 or 8 kids. 2 kids were waving. 2 kids were giving us the bird, like "fuck you." And then the other kids were just kind of sitting there. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess it's kind of a mixed bag. Some of them like us, some of them don't, and some of them really don't give a shit. And that's really like how most of the Afghans were. But just spending time there. I mean, I feel like I gained a lot. It was actually hard for me to leave because I really believed in the mission that we were doing in Afghanistan. But for me, it was just the perspective that you got on life and how lucky you are to be born in a certain area. Because if you're born in poverty in Afghanistan, bro, it is hard to overcome that.
Yeah.
Versus you and I are from countries that are liberated, that you can be born into poverty and you can be a billionaire if you want to. I mean, that's possible for us. And if you're born into, not only just even in Kabul and Korea, if you're born in certain areas where, the Pashto, which were the predominant ethnic people in Afghanistan, I mean, guys like me and you, it's very easy for you to consider, like, to see yourself like going and being, part of the Taliban, just because you don't know any better. You become a product of your environment, and it sucks, man. War, even though I feel like I got a really positive experience and overall just perspective on life after serving time there. War sucks, man, and anybody who is like super pro war has never been in one. If they have and they still feel that way, there's probably something wrong with them.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to depict all those. And yeah, the perspective must be huge. Yeah, I'm just guessing. Is there any chance you would have supported Tulsi Gabbard if she was still in the race for US? Because she was big anti-war candidate.
I feel like there's, I try to be, so I lean typically a little bit right on the political spectrum. I typically vote Republican in the U.S., not so much because I actually have a pretty liberal personal views of the world in terms of socially. I would say would fall liberal, but I'm a diehard capitalist. I'm not a big socialist and communist type of person. I don't feel like giving the government, the full control is the best way to live. But someone like her, I feel like she was a little bit too extreme. I really like to have people, kind of in the middle. The problem is that, we've got the world's largest military, and you just come out and you say, it's kind of like the people who say, we want to get rid of the guns in the U.S. We want to outlaw guns. Well, you can't. We have more firearms than human beings in the United States. Like, I've got, I don't even know how many guns I have. I've got like 10 or 12. I don't even know. And for a lot of guys like me, that's common. Like, I've got so many guns, I don't even know how many I have. So there's not really any going back. So when you have someone like her who's very anti-war, you have the world's most powerful military. You can't just like get rid of it overnight. But I do feel like it's important to have people like her in government, though, to balance out the super people on the other side of the spectrum. So, I don't feel like she'd be a candidate I would support, but I do feel like she's a candidate. It's important to have people like her.
Yeah, I think, I also agree. Although I think she's way better than any of the current choices that she would have to make, but the thing, she also, I think, would bring the perspective because she served in the military, and I think that's huge. Like, from all the Democratic candidates, I think she would have the most experience in this stuff, and maybe her solutions wouldn't be the greatest, but I mean, you'd know where they're coming from. Like, she fought out about it, and like, it's not just what, I don't know, her supporters want her to do. So
no, I liked her. I thought she was a good candidate. I mean, I'll be interested to see who Biden picks as his running mate. She would be obviously a strong candidate. I don't know that she would join, but short of her or perhaps Michelle Obama, there's just zero chance they beat Trump, or Biden's going to beat Trump. The only way that happens, again, is if Michelle Obama or her is his running mate. That's the only chance they have of unseating Trump from office.
I mean, if he picks like, if he, yeah, I think he has other good picks that like he could do. Like, I mean, if he just sits out and lets another guy like, I was a big fan of Andrew Yang. Do you know him?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I don't think he's gonna pick him, but if he were to pick him and then he would do all the talking and Biden would just sit somewhere in the corner, I think that would be a possible combo that could win. But
Trump will steamroll him even if that's the combo.
I mean, Trump would definitely destroy Biden, but I don't know if he would destroy like Andrew Yang on specific issues at least. Like,
No. But the problem is he's not going to be up on stage doing these debates and stuff like that with Biden, and it's just it's with them with the Democratic Party choosing Biden, it's just, in my opinion, it's not going to happen. And to be honest with you, I've started doing this over the last like few years. I call it selective ignorance. Like, for instance, I'm an American citizen. We vote for our president once every 4 years, and it takes about an hour by the time you park your car, get in line, make sure you're registered to vote, and then vote. So out of 4 years, I spend 1 hour electing this person. This morning, I can wake up and, whether it be President Obama or Hillary Clinton for that matter, or Donald Trump, but I really feel like no matter who our president is at the moment, it would not change. It would not really affect my personal life any if I had no idea who it was.
yeah, I mean, it is a popularity contest, so there's no other really way to do it, I suppose. I don't know.
We just have a big government, and then on top of that, and this is one of the misconceptions about the U.S. I don't know that a lot of people know. Like, our state governments have a lot of power, and so we don't necessarily have a very large. Even though the TV makes it look like we have a very large federal government, because we do have a big military and stuff like that, but the actual power of the federal government on your everyday living as a person in the U.S. is very little. You're way more controlled by your state government and local governments. So, I mean, it's important who our president is, because obviously they're our commander in chief to our military, and they do have some executive power. But I mean, there's just so much power that they don't have due to our Senate and our Congress. But it's a sexy subject for TV, So, but that's even for a lot of American people. Like, I have this conversation with them. I'm like, why do you care so much about the U.S. president when, like, what he can do is literally almost nothing to your personal life? But then, your local elected officials literally do have a far more, prevalent impact on your life than the president. This is what you spend all your time on. So I've just actually, to be honest with you, this is probably the last 2 years I've probably spent less time than I ever have about like anything political. And I haven't even thought about running for public office, but I just don't know if I'd want that type of personal intrusion,
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, the same thing here for myself. Like, it literally makes zero impact who you choose for president, but it's just for show. It's just fun to look at you and like see you battle it out. So yeah, that's like most of the world is looking. Like, if you're not in the U.S. and you're panicking about who's gonna be your president, like that's totally an overreaction. I'd suggest enjoy the show.
Bro, I lived in Mexico City last year, and I literally had Mexicans would ask once a blue moon, they would talk to me about U.S. politics. And anytime I ever engaged with Mexicans about U.S. politics, they were friendly, understanding. I mean, they were just very interested, whether they agreed with me or not. They were just very interested, never rude. But then if I would talk to someone who was American or European, man, like I had this one guy, because I voted for Trump, and I don't mind telling people that. But I was out at this pool hall with one of my buddies, like this really nice, pool hall. and we were playing, and there was this guy from Wales, and he was, I can't remember how he started the conversation. Anyway, he was just very, very confrontational about you. So my buddy and I were playing. We were out with a group of people. Most of the group of people were Europeans and Americans. We were the guys I was out with, and a lot of the European guys were, you know, British in some way or another, whether they were Welsh, English, Scottish, whatever. And so my buddy and I played pool with this guy that was Welsh, and another guy that was from I can't remember. I think he was German. But anyway, so he was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna kick these Americans' ass," and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." I'm an easygoing guy, man, you know. So we start playing pool, and he starts trying to bait me and talk about U.S. politics and stuff. And I'm like, "Hey, bro, I don't do politics, so you know, like, let's just play pool, man. Talk about whatever else." Anyway, he kept on and kept on and kept on. Well, then he goes to break one game, and he's like, "Here's for Bernie." He's a big Bernie Sanders supporter, and he misses the ball, like completely misses the cue ball. And so I was like, "Here, I'll break him." As a joke, I was like, "This is for Trump," and I, you know, busted the table. And he's like, "I fucking knew it, mate. I knew you was a fucking Trump supporter," you know, and like just started in on me. And I was like, "Bro," I was like, "I told you, like, I'm not engaging in the conversation." But he kept on and kept on and kept on. And finally, like, I'm only gonna get poked so many times before I'm gonna say something. And I was like, where are you? I was like, "Where the fuck are you from?" He's like, "Oh, I'm Welsh." I'm like, how does that impact you whatsoever who our president is? Like, you're not American, so I don't really give a shit like what your thought on our country is. I mean, that's cool. You can have your opinion, but you don't have to be so goddamn combative about it. And anyway, so then he keeps on, and I was just like, you know what? So if it wasn't for us, I was like, your grandparents would have a schnitzel shoved in their mouth by the Germans, so you're fucking welcome.
Yeah, that's a good.
And that was kind of the conversation. But it was like, you know, I'm not that guy. Like, I'm not rude. If you don't like Trump, or if you didn't like President Obama, that's cool with me, man. Like, you don't have to like them and stuff like that. You know, I get that, you know, that it's kind of like soap opera, or our politics are kind of like soap opera for the world. And, you know, and so I get that people care about it and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, I think it's cool that people care, you know, about our politics and stuff like that. But, you know, at the same time, it's like, you know, at the end of the day, it's our country, and things that were like, for instance, you guys just have different laws than we do. You know, there's just things that are different about the U.S. That, you know, unless you live here and unless you've been here for a long time, it just may not apply. So anyway, I personally was a big what's his name? He ran last year. He's one of the Republican candidates. Kasich. I was a big Kasich fan because he had actually worked. He actually served in office with Democratic office for quite some time. So I thought he was a good Republican candidate because he was in the middle about a lot of things. Really smart guy too. And but it's just, unfortunately, man, it's just not. He wasn't sexy enough.
Sure. Yeah.
So
it is exciting to talk about your country's politics, but yeah, once you get emotional about this stuff, like, it's like
Right. Well, I mean, it's just like there's no reason like it, because at the end of the day, like, you and I have very little control. Even me, I get one vote. Like, my vote doesn't count any more than anyone else's. So my one vote that I go make a year, I mean, it's you know, I mean, obviously it's a big deal. That's what we fight for democracy. But at the end of the day, it's like I get one vote.
I mean, your interview, for instance, on Piers Morgan, I think it had quite a bit of impact, like, about if people were in the middle, like, whether they should support gun rights or not. Like, I think it swayed into your direction, I think. So you do have quite a bit of impact. Like, you do have a good following. So.
Well, I mean, if you look at countries, let's just use like Mexico, for instance. Mexico, for 3 decades now, I've dealt with drug cartels. They basically, there are a lot of places in Mexico, they dealt with basically a war inside their own country. And, but it's illegal to have guns in Mexico. So you sit there and look, would the country be safer right now if you gave all the good people weapons too? Because the cartels, I mean, they run the show in a lot of these areas in Mexico, and I mean, I've been all over Mexico. I drove all the way through Mexico,
I
and
mean, the bad guys already have the guns, so like
exactly.
yeah,
And I found Mexican people. Out of all the people that I've met, I've been to several countries now. I felt like Mexican people were some of the nicest people I've ever met. Super, super friendly people, just really helpful. And it sucks because they deal so much violence. So like you said, the bad guys already have the guns. Like what if they had the same laws that we have in the United States? Would the conditions improve in a lot of these areas in Mexico when you got the good people who have guns too and can protect themselves? I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I think something needs to change, and maybe they'll sway in the positive direction. I thought it was going to get slightly political because I do enjoy talking about this stuff.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Man.
But this is sort of mostly nutrition related channel, so let's also dig into that stuff as well. I'm not sure how much you care about nutrition, but I've seen you experiment with fasting on your YouTube channel. That's something you like to do. Where did you find the benefits of it? Who told you that?
Yeah, I've done 2 week-long fast before. Nutrition and stuff is very, 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 very important to me. Plus, I like to do some like extreme stuff just to like see if I can do it. And so, really, with the fasting, I've had a lot of people, ask me about fasting since I did that. Because I started doing intermittent fasting back a few years ago, and I had really good experience in intermittent fasting. And I can't remember, one of my buddies had done it. He did a 6-day water fast. And so when I was coming back I was getting ready to go to Mexico last year. I just felt, I'd been lifting a lot and stuff like that, but I just felt like heavy. I'd just gotten back from a trip to Cuba where I walked a lot. Like I walked everywhere around Cuba, and I was probably like 95 to 100 kilos at the time. And I just felt like worn down, after that trip to Cuba, because I walked so much, and I was like, I don't want to be this, because I knew I was going to be traveling all last year. I didn't want to be big and be traveling. So the fastest way to lose a bunch of weight is just not to eat. And so I just literally just winged a water fast. And so, of course, I started doing more research as I was doing it. But really, what I got out of the fasting, you lose a lot of weight. And the first time I did it, I think I may have passed a worm.
Wait, what does that mean?
Defecated a worm. Because after like 4 days, like you kind of empty what you have left in your body, and you're just, when you do a bowel movement, it's normally just water or whatever's left. But there's a lot of studies that have shown that if you stop eating food, and then anything that's living inside of you, like any parasites or anything like that, now they don't have a food source because they're not eating your food that you're digesting. And like I said, I can 1000% say that, because it was kind of like one of those things. Like obviously, I'm not trying to see what's going on down there after a few days, because it does get a little. Because a lot of the stuff that you're defecating it's just fat, because your body's ridding itself of fat. That's what you're living off of. And but I'm about 95% sure I saw a worm, a pretty good sized one, like swirling down, and so that was kind of weird. But you get a lot of mental benefits from doing the water fast, man. It's just when you sit there and deprive yourself from food, because food's like, it's a big deal, and it's something we spend a lot of time throughout the day doing. You realize like how much time you spend with food throughout the day, but I feel like the mental benefits that you get from doing a water fast is pretty. I'm not a very religious person or anything like that, but I definitely feel like it's like a spiritual experience. You just and there's dudes that do these like 20, 30, 40 day fast and stuff. I don't know that I'm ever ready to do one of that. I'd maybe do a 10-day one, but in the right environment, like maybe out in nature or something like that, I do a 10-dayer. But I really think that there's a lot of if you're healthy and if your doctor approves it or whatever, I feel like everybody should do one because I think you just get a different perspective on things and you just deprive yourself from food. Have you ever done one of these?
The longest one I've done was a couple of days, like 48 hours, or was it 72 hours? No, I think it was actually 72 hours.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's still way more than the usual person would do.
Yeah.
And the mind, the cognitive benefits and the spiritual experience is definitely a thing. Like, because fasting has been a part of so many religions. Like, so there must be a reason for that. I just wrote an article about keto and fasting, and I would talk like how almost every single religion had fasting in it for like different reasons. But yeah, that's fascinating. What about your diet? It's some kind of low carb diet, I suppose. I don't think it's vegan.
No. Although I did do vegan for 6 months, I suffer from gout, and I've tried everything, like recalibrate my diet over the years to try to reduce my gout flare-ups. And so I did vegan for 6 months, hated it, and it got to the point too, like my gout flare-ups were going on, but I said I was going to do 6 months, and I just wanted to see if I could do it at that point. And I did. And I like some vegan dishes. It's just I'm a meat eater, man. So I've done paleo was probably what I was doing CrossFit probably 6 days a week, and I was 5 to 6 days a week, and I was doing probably about an extra like hour of heavy weightlifting after my CrossFit workout and doing paleo. That was probably the best shape I ever was in. I was jacked, ripped six pack. I felt really good doing paleo, and I did intermittent fasting when I did paleo. And so I would do 6 paleo days on, and then I'd do 1 day on. So on Sunday I would just like pig out on pizza and burgers and whatever else that I didn't eat throughout the week. And it was really good. I felt like it was a really good balance of me still being able to eat some things I like to eat, but the paleo diet in general for me was very beneficial because I enjoy fruits. I really like to eat fruit. I really like to eat nuts. I really like to eat meat. So then I did at the beginning of this year. I started doing the carnivore diet.
Oh, nice.
And because I have a few friends of mine that are doctors, and one of my buddies in particular is someone that I did CrossFit with, and he's always been really big in health and nutrition, and he did, and he's been doing carnivore for like 2-3 years, and I called him and I said, tell me about this carnivore thing, and he, I'm O positive blood type, and he said, that's a perfect match for someone who want to do carnivore, and anyway, he just goes to the whole spiel about carnivore and why eating certain plants aren't necessarily good for you and this, that, and the other. And anyway, it made a lot of sense. And I thought he was a really smart guy. So I did carnivore for about 4 months. And now I'm doing more of a very meat heavy paleo-ish diet is kind of what I'm eating right now. This is my girlfriend from Ecuador moved in with me. And it wasn't really fair to her she likes meat, but she doesn't, like to eat meat at the quantity that I do. And so it was a little unfair to her for, me to sit there and be like, all right, I'm just going to eat, steak for every meal. And she wanted to cook things for me and stuff like that. So, now I'm back kind of doing more of like a meat heavy paleo diet.
Yeah, for some reason I do think like for your style carnivore would suit you. Don't know why, but yeah, I mean, I think you also must have. I've done carnivore for a couple of months. Yeah, and now, my current diet is like carnivore-ish, it's just heavy meat with some vegetables that I like, but mostly I get all the nutrition from meat and like organ meats and stuff like that. But
Really?
I do enjoy, and I like it for the simplicity and the, at least what I think, the productivity that it gives me, just because like it removes so much of weight that I put on food, like just
Yeah.
mentally. Like I used to think what I'm gonna eat, and I'll literally just throw a steak on a pan and that's it. Like I don't need to think about it. And
Yeah.
yeah, and the hunger cravings are gone. So yeah, throughout the day I can just focus on my work, and yeah, it's if you do want a diet that I think is the best for your generally just mental state and just productivity. I think going carnivore-ish, not necessarily like you can include some fruit and stuff, like just to, I don't know, make it more colorful. But yeah.
You guys traditionally eat a very meat-heavy diet, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, we do eat quite a bit of carbs as well, because like most of our traditional dishes do involve carbs. I think it's because like we have really cold winters, and like that's the thing, just like to eat a bunch of like fat and carbs. I mean, now it's not really an issue, but before it's like to get as much fat going before the winter. So like we do have like potatoes are big in
Sure.
Lithuania, so like yeah, most of the dishes do involve potatoes. But yeah, it sounds exciting. So yeah, what's your next big adventure? What's maybe a country that you'd like to visit, never been?
Well, it's unfortunately, the COVID's really shut down on my travel plans and stuff. But I wanted to come back this year to do work anyway. I've got a project coming up in Virginia that I'm going to be leaving to go to in about 3 weeks. But I'm planning on heading back to South America. I wanted to finish off all the other countries in South America that I haven't been to, and I want to be. I know I'm not going to be fluent in Spanish by the time I get finished, but I want to be at least like a conversational speaker in Spanish. Like I can speak Spanish, and my girlfriend and I speak in Spanish, but I want to be to where I speak Spanish. That's one of the things about Americans, man. That when I meet people like you, how many languages do you speak?
Just native Lithuanian and English, and I mean some German, but really it's English and Lithuanian.
That's like in the U.S. we speak one language.
Yeah, true.
And it's like, and I've always said this. Every European I've ever met, they speak their native language and they speak one other language really, really well, and then they normally can at least, at the very minimum, speak a little bit, of another language well. Like for instance, you can speak a little bit of German. Like as an American, like if you're bilingual, if you speak, English and Spanish, it's like, oh my God, like it's a big deal. Unless you're, from Mexico or Colombia or wherever, and you've lived in the U.S. and you're a native Spanish speaker and learned English. But if you're a native English speaker and you learn another language, like people just don't do it. And I've always just like always very impressed when I meet, and that's one of the things I feel like we just really suck in our education system is not not spending time with language arts and stuff and learning other languages, because as you get older it's really difficult when you're in, like for me, learning Spanish in my 30s versus learning Spanish when I was a kid. So I think it's really great. But yeah, I want to continue to go through all of South America and finish off the rest of the countries. And like I said, I'd like to. Part of the reasons I also want my Spanish to improve enough to where I can be conversational in Spanish.
Cool. Yeah, when you talk about perspective, so definitely learning a new language gives you that. And yeah, we learn English starting like second grade. That's all of my English, and just watching all of your cartoons and stuff like that. That's what taught me the language. But I'm really glad that I did learn it. And yeah, sounds cool. Where can people find you?
I'm probably most active on my Instagram page. It's just my name. It's Zach_Blenkinsopp. I get for whatever reason, I get a lot of fake profiles made lately and trying to scam people out of money. So make sure that you look for the blue check mark. I do have an Instagram channel. All my stuff is just my first and last name. It's just Zach Blenkinsopp, so it's easy to find me because there's not a lot of Blenkinsopps. So yeah, and obviously you have. So how common is your name in Lithuania?
I mean, my first name is quite common, but my last
Yeah.
name is like nobody has it. It's not like in America where like the last names are so common, but mine
Yeah.
are just yeah, few people. That's it. But yeah, I'm
Have
gonna.
you have you ever followed a guy named Jocko in the U.S.?
Oh yeah, he's also a veteran. Yeah, I do watch
Yeah.
some of his stuff.
When I saw your name the first time, I thought of him. I thought it was good.
Yeah. But so yeah, I'm gonna leave all of your social media in the description. Yeah, and I'd like to ask you one more question. So yeah, you've clearly learned a lot throughout your career, like during the military times, the times when you were traveling. So what's the number one thing that you would like to instill in the new generation? For example, if you took a troubled kid and you had one value that you would like him or her to carry, what would it be? Like if you had that opportunity?
I think it would be to just to think big, because I feel like there's so many people. If you talk to a lot of old people and they're dying, most of the number one thing that seems like is an ongoing theme is they talk about regret, about all the things they never did. And I do talk to a lot of young people, and what I always tell them is, think big, and if you whatever your dream is to do, go try it. But so many people are afraid of what other people think, or what of them failing, because you can always like go back to normal, whatever normal is. You can always go back to that, but it's if you never like give yourself really a chance to like see what else is out there, what other type of life you could live, you're just kind of stuck in in the life that you're in, and you're going to be just a product of your environment, whether that's good or bad. But most of the people have an opportunity to go do other things.
Well, that's awesome, man. And you definitely inspire people to do that by traveling to different places and yeah, showing people how people are different, how governments are different, and everything. Listen, it was really fun talking with you. It's
Yeah, man, you too.
definitely yeah, I'm definitely excited to have this chat, and I wish you luck in all of your life's adventures, everything you do. So yeah, thanks and take care.
Thanks a lot, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.